The Trump administration is in trouble with the courts again for violating court orders again. This time, it's for Trump's attempts to gut the Voice of America, which is an international broadcaster funded by the United States. It's been around since 1942. One of its goals originally was to combat Nazi propaganda by spreading American democracy in many, many parts of the world. And we're going to talk about the good work that they've done and the long-standing relationship it's had with the rest of the world and its effectiveness in spreading American culture and democracy throughout the world, and why Trump will be trying to gut this institution and stop it from doing its good work. I'm Shant Karnikian. That's Brian Kabateck. This is Civil Action on the Legal AF Network. If you like this content, just a reminder, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Brian, where do we start here? Voice of America. What did Trump try to do, and how did he piss off the courts this time?
Well, let's start at the very beginning, which is a very good place to start, right? The Voice of America was founded. This does perplex me, I guess, at one level. The Voice of America was started during World War II to make sure that people got in Nazi Germany got accurate information about specifically what's going on. And it's done good work. It still continues to do good work in countries like China, North Korea, Afghanistan, Iran, where it's trying to at least get additional information in countries where people are shut down from a free flow of Western information and Western news. And after the Cold War ended and the fall of the Soviet Union, bipartisan support for Voice of America came out because they were potentially helpful in spreading information to people in the Soviet Union about what was really going on, like Chernobyl, for example. So this isn't just something that's made up out of whole cloth, as they say. It's a statute that exists. The International Broadcasting Act of 1994, it's a federal statute. There is an agency called the U.S. Agency for Global Media, which apparently is run by none other than Kari Lake.
Kari Lake.
Yeah. Kari Lake is the failed gubernatorial candidate in Arizona and a broadcaster and kind of a fireball, and an
conspiracy theorist, radical right winger. Yeah.
So Shant, the judge in this case is not new to this case. This is a brand new story because it just happened in the last few hours, but it's not a new case because a case was brought, I think, in March of 2025, after Trump tried to shut down the Voice of America, and several people filed a lawsuit, including the union, to stop this and say it was patently illegal. And in April of 2025, there was a preliminary injunction issued, right? So go into that. Let's talk about that injunction.
So in April of 2025, exactly in the case that you were discussing, when Trump first tried to gut this organization, they brought suit. Then U.S. District Court Judge Royce Lamberth issued a preliminary injunction. He specifically told the Trump administration to restore their operations, rehire the employees and contractors, and he restored all the grants to networks that are, part of this Voice of America, like Radio Free Asia and Middle East Broadcasting Networks. He found that the cuts violated statutes and possibly even the Constitution. And because, much like many things that Trump has tried to gut, because it operates based on authority and appropriations granted to it by Congress, and it has statutory obligations. You can't just get rid of it. This isn't just some voluntary program that the executive branch creates and that Trump can just unilaterally say, signing an executive order, I'm gutting it. It doesn't work that way, but Trump tried to do that. So the preliminary injunction was issued. He was told that he can't do this. Everyone needs to be rehired. Part of that injunction was stayed, but apparently it looks like Trump doesn't give a shit about this and he hasn't been following it. Yeah,
I think that's an accurate statement. I mean, here's some of the things the judge just said yesterday or the day before, that the court no longer harbors any doubt that the defendants lack a plan to comply with the preliminary injunction. So that, there's no effort. They had no intention of complying with the court order. The defendants had been running out the clock on the fiscal year while remaining in violation of even the most meager reading of the U.S. AGM and the Voice of America statutory obligations. Then the court said, on disrespect and contempt, concerning disrespect for the court's directive, the defendant's obfuscation of the court's request for information has wasted precious judicial time and readily support contempt, although he hasn't initiated contempt yet. the one of the things the Justice Department tried to argue here was that there's some other United States Supreme Court rulings that say that the Trump administration could do this. And the court blasted back and said, applying Supreme Court emergency rulings, these are these stupid, shadow docket issues, would be letting the government fill in the blanks of ruling, because the ruling didn't apply to this issue. It applied to something else. So, the court said, you got to stop. I'm going to start monitoring this case on a regular basis, which is good. And of course, what's the response from the White House?
They don't give a shit. They don't care. Yeah.
What's some stupid judge going to tell us how to run this country?
Right. I mean, look, it does. You started this by saying it kind of baffles you that this is something that the Trump administration would want to try to gut, because it's so important. But you know what it comes down to? It's, and when Trump signed the original executive order, he referred to the voice of America as the voice of radical America, and that's kind of what it comes down to. They're not the message that they have out there and the programs that they run. And look, let's not kid ourselves. This is sort of America's propaganda machine, which can be a good thing if you're interested in moving American interests forward or pushing American interests across the globe. And for some reason, Trump wants to gut it, but that's because the message it puts out isn't pro-Trump enough. It's not pro his plans. And I don't know what he wants to do. He's probably trying to grift the rest of the world after he's done grifting all of America. But that's his problem. They tried to replace it with one of the pro-Trump sort of networks, like One America News or whatever. That's what they've been trying to do, because that they want to have that be the government's official message. And I think that's wrong to have a partisan message go out as opposed to a pro-American message go out through these channels.
Yeah, I'm just going to say I don't completely get it, and I think if you look at something like this, it's really form over substance. It's like, let's just go cut. And, one of their big taglines has been the government's so overrun, it's bloated. And I think anyone with, half a brain can recognize there's some of that. But this stuff is freewheeling. It's not thoughtful, or it is exactly thoughtful because they're trying to get rid of anything that they think disagrees with their point.
It might be deliberate in that sense. Yeah.
Right. I think so. And I think the deliberateness here but it's the backdrop is really when they sit there and say things like, we're trying to save money, we're trying to cut funds, we're trying to, protect people in America and their money. And then yet they turn around and put $100 billion into ICE.
Yeah.
And the military programs.
Indiscriminately spending money on stuff like that.
And flying all these generals here to listen to a campaign speech that was ridiculous.
Yeah. Look, that's a part of this too. That's a part of this. They don't want this Voice of America program, like what it sort of preaches as democracy and things like that. No, they don't want our image to be that. They want our image to be, the warrior ethos and fight and crushing enemies. And that's what they want. They don't want us to come off as shining, beacons of democracy. They want us to come off as crazy savages. And I think that's just wrong. But, I'm glad this judge is holding them accountable. I'm glad we need more of this. Judges are going to have to be the monitors. I've always said this. This is the last line of defense against authoritarian leaders and dictators like Trump, which is what he's trying to become. So this is it. It's an important issue. We'll see how it shakes out. We'll see if the judge holds them in contempt. That's going to be an interesting issue.
The irony, of course, is this was all started during in order to combat Nazism, and that was the whole purpose.
Yeah, that was one of the main purposes of it. Well, we'll keep up to date on this. Thanks for tuning in to this installment of Civil Action on the Legal AF Network. You like this content, remember to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share with us your comments and feedback, share this anywhere else you think people will find it interesting. We're a couple of practicing lawyers, so this stuff is really interesting for us. It gives us a chance to be able to kind of go a little bit outside of what we do in our day to day. But if you want to reach out to us, we're friendly. Reach out to us. You can contact us anytime. See you on the next episode.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. come over now to free subscribe.